Is the new trade war a result of a power struggle within the CCP? Did LeBron James write an op-ed for a Chinese state-run newspaper? And is everyone spying for China? That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Whenever you go online, you really should be using a VPN like Surfshark to cover your tracks and protect your identity. I'll tell you more in a bit. So, how are you all enjoying the latest chapter in the US-China trade war?
Are we in for a sustained trade war with China?
Well, you're in one now.
Very true, Mr. President. I've been saying that for years. The US didn't start the trade war. China did, years before Trump even considered running for president. But here's a little wrinkle in the latest chapter. A quick recap. Last week, the CCP announced insane new restrictions on rare earth mineral exports. Those are critical for basically any modern tech. What this means is that any company selling anything that uses Chinese rare earths needs to get China's permission first to sell it. So, if the biggest, most cutting-edge semiconductor company, TSMC, wants to sell to the US, they need to ask China's permission first. Yeah, crazy. China just tried to seize control of the global economy. Trump responded by putting 100% tariffs on Chinese goods on top of any tariffs already in place. In an episode a few days ago, I asked the question, what was Xi Jinping thinking? That was a huge gamble, and it seems to have backfired bigly. Well, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had a very interesting take.
I believe that the president thinks that this may have been, from a lower level official. The Chinese system is quite brittle, so this may not have come from Xi Jinping himself. This may have come, from a Chinese hardliner. They have hardliners on their side too, who are always trying to undermine the relationship.
Oh, this is some general hostility stuff right here. The problem is that explanation doesn't make a lick of sense. Xi Jinping has only been enhancing his control over the party. All major decisions have to go through him. The rare earth thing is kind of a major decision. There is no way lower level officials could have made that call because it requires action from both the Commerce Ministry and custom authorities. That's not something a lower level official could coordinate, and if they tried, higher ups would quickly find out. Also, I've talked about the whole lying flat movement in China. People have become apathetic and don't want to do anything. That applies to lower level officials too. Over 5 million officials have been investigated in Xi's personal anti-corruption campaign. No lower level official is going to get creative and try new things. They're going to keep quiet and do what the top says. But what about the hardliner explanation? There have been persistent rumors that rivals to Xi have sidelined him and seized control or are in the process of seizing control, and that Xi himself may have suffered a debilitating stroke. Except those rumors have always been going around, and every time someone says Xi had a stroke, he pops up the next day at some global leaders meeting on women. And since he just finished hosting a massive military parade with all his authoritarian buddies, I think it's safe to say he's still got a firm grip on power. So the hardliner explanation also doesn't make sense, especially because if they had really seized power, they wouldn't need to make this desperate 0% chance of success move. Xi himself has constantly been talking about weaponizing China's supply chains and industry. The rare earth restrictions are completely in line with that. And Xi is a hardliner. He constantly talks about the great power struggle between the US and China. So Bessent is right, the rare earth restrictions are from a hardliner that wants to undermine the US-China relationship. It's just that that hardliner is Xi. What Bessent's comments tell me is that either they're trying to shift the blame away from Xi because Trump doesn't actually want to keep the 100% tariffs in place and wants to make some kind of deal with Xi when they meet at the upcoming APEC meeting in South Korea. Or that was a line fed to the Trump administration by Xi, so he could come in as the savior and get some concessions from Trump at the APEC meeting. which would be classic communist manipulation. So really, we need to wait and see what Trump's next move is. The tariffs were a great response, but if that's discarded for some kind of deal, we may have just played right into China's hands. A CCP-linked businessman has reportedly donated $65,000 to Democrat Mikey Sherrill's bid for governor of New Jersey. How dare they besmirch the noble, nay, sacred office of Chris Christie, the official pick for president in 2028 of my twin brother Chris Chappell's channel, America Uncovered. The donor, Pin Ni, cut at least 2 checks worth a total of $60,000 for a super PAC that contributed to Sherrill's campaign called One Giant Leap. Probably because the name The Great Leap Forward didn't test well, what with the millions of dead people associated with it. Pin also gave another $5,800 directly to her campaign back in June, which is the maximum allowed. But he also founded the Wangxiang America Corporation, which is part of the Wangxiang Group, the CCP's biggest auto components manufacturer. And the founder and CEO of one anti-CCP nonprofit told the New York Post that Pin has an extensive history of assisting the CCP's political warfare and influence operations upon the US and of generally aligning with and carrying out party commands. I just know Chris Christie wouldn't have stood for this, mostly because with his weight he doesn't like to stand for anything. Meanwhile, in Virginia, Democrat gubernatorial candidate and ex-CIA officer Abigail Spanberger took $50,000 from the same CCP-linked tycoon. Interestingly, Spanberger and Sherrill were roommates when they were both House representatives. Looks like they had similar ideas. Mainly, want to sell out to China for cash? Oh my gosh, you read my mind. These donation revelations come as Spanberger, once a U.S. representative in Virginia, champions EV mandates and tax credits that could directly benefit Wangxiang. But it's not just these two. According to the Daily Caller, Democrat mayor of LA, Karen Bass, also raked in cash from Chinese Intel-tied bankers before appointing them as advisors. Of course, only U.S. citizens or permanent legal residents can donate to political campaigns, which I'm sure is a rule that's never broken, because there's no way there's shady money in elections. But Pin appears to have a social security number, which opens up a whole other can of worms. And to be fair, Pin also did donate to the Republican National Committee. He's apparently an equal opportunity corrupter, which just goes to show how deeply the CCP has infiltrated many local governments and campaigns in the US. We've done plenty more episodes on this topic, including this one. And after the break, China is lying about LeBron James. Welcome back. China is falsely claiming that LeBron James wrote an op-ed for the state-owned People's Daily newspaper. And folks thought it was bad when he left Cleveland for Miami. This has to be one of the most bizarre things I've ever talked about on this show, which is saying something, since just this week I talked about how China made being sad illegal. But given all the doom and gloom stories we usually report about China, I'll take it. Last month, James talked to a reporter in China while on a trip there. But instead of quoting James, the reporter chose to write an entire op-ed and put James's name in the byline. The opinion piece praised basketball as a way to bring different cultures and countries together. You might remember the difficulties the NBA had with China in 2019, when the manager of the Houston Rockets at the time posted in support of pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong. Shortly after, the NBA was kicked out of China. But at the time, LeBron criticized the pro-Hong Kong tweet. I guess James can relate to the CCP, because they also take shots after offensive traveling. So it seemed believable that he would write an op-ed for China now. But given the tensions between the US and China at the moment, this isn't a good look. Conservative commentators accuse LeBron of letting the fame get to his head and whitewashing the CCP's crimes, before, of course, it came out that the CCP had simply lied. First time? The NBA has recently been invited back into China, with the Brooklyn Nets and Phoenix Suns playing in Macau on Sunday. Word on the street is that Xi Jinping loves basketball. Xi loves the Nets. especially using them to capture dissidents. So hey, remember 2 weeks ago when Philadelphia's City Hall hoisted the Chinese flag and San Francisco hosted a Chinese flag-raising ceremony to celebrate the 76th anniversary of the People's Republic of China, and China praised them for their efforts? Well, now China has tried to pressure a hotel in Rome to cancel a Taiwan National Day event, because if it weren't for double standards, the CCP would have no standards at all. Taiwan's representative to Italy said the Chinese Communist Party wanted the Hotel Parco dei Principi to cancel the celebration because of a visiting Chinese delegation that included Foreign Minister Wang Yi. But even though the visit was taking place around the same time, the hotel sided with Taiwan, so the reception went forward anyway. It's nice to see that even some relatively obscure businesses have more moral courage than countries when it comes to Taiwan. Go rate them 5 stars on Yelp, which will make China even more mad since the only place they have 5 stars is on their flag. A State Department employee allegedly stole top-secret documents and met with Chinese officials, which isn't spying, apparently, since he's not being accused of that. But it sounds pretty spying adjacent. Ashley Tellis has been an unpaid advisor for the State Department since 2001 and also worked as a contractor for the DoD's Office of Net Assessment. On top of that, he's worked as an Asia and international security expert at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Now, he's facing a felony charge for unlawful retention of national defense information after investigators found a trove of over 1,000 documents at his home in Virginia. According to court documents, Tellis had a co-worker back at the Department of Defense print many classified documents for him. And in the State Department, he also logged into a secret computer system, opened a file containing Air Force procedures, techniques, and tactics, and changed the name of these files to make it look like they were related to economic reform before printing them out. Which is weird. I mean, why change the names? And why economic reform? If he really didn't want people to open those files to see what was in them, he should have named them Xi Nudes. Ugh. Tellis has allegedly also held several dinner meetings with Chinese officials since 2022, in which he supposedly handed over envelopes in exchange for red gift bags, because even the bribes need to be on brand, I guess. So it's safe to assume that all of this shady behavior was probably related to some sort of spy effort for the CCP. If convicted, he could spend a decade in prison and pay a fine of $250,000, which is the penalty for holding on to secret documents, while not being a former president. And Chinese cyber attackers have impersonated the Epoch Times newspaper to threaten federal agencies and the White House. I guess the CCP heard the pen was mightier than the sword and tried to weaponize it. The idea was apparently to take down the Epoch Times, since a September 6 Chinese-language email received by the newspaper said in the subject line, "See the screenshots, you are done," which sounds like a scare tactic in a spam email used to scam my grandma. Cutting-edge stuff right there. The email also contained a Contact Us form from the White House containing the newspaper's email address and phone number, and identifying it as representing the Falun Gong movement. The hackers also claimed they'd broadcast their attacks on YouTube, the Epoch Times, and its sister outlet NTD, among other platforms. Clearly, this is about the CCP trying to make Falun Gong look bad and dangerous. I mean, look at them. Clearly, this justifies Beijing's crackdown on the community and harvesting their organs. And that's why we make these episodes, so that CCP's crimes are out there for everyone to see. And I'm able to do that thanks to today's sponsor, Surfshark. Did you know that every time you go online, potentially everything you do is compromised? And that's why the people at Surfshark created a VPN that keeps your internet activity private and secure. If you're not taking active steps to protect yourself, everything you do is being tracked and logged by the websites you visit, your internet service provider, and often by your own government. Using a VPN makes you harder to track. Surfshark has servers you can connect to in over 100 countries, more than any other VPN. That includes a server in the British Virgin Islands, where the law allows companies to not log user data. So stay safe and check out Surfshark. With just one Surfshark account, you can connect as many devices as you want. It also comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to surfshark.com/uncensored and use the code uncensored to get up to 4 months extra. The link is in the description below. And check out this episode from my other show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming, about what makes someone a real American. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.